In 1980, the Grammy for the Best Country Song was awarded to Johnny Lee for his hit called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. I was very young at the time, but I remember hearing it even though not many people in my family listened to country music. It was all over the place. The song told a simple tale of doing all the wrong things when it comes to finding a lasting relationship, hanging out in bars and hooking up with people who are making the same mistakes as them. These days, it's not just the bars where people go to fail at love. It's also dating apps, speed dating, social media, and other more nefarious places that need not be mentioned here. Same premise as that song from the 1980s, same failure rate. You would think we'd learn by now, some 43 years after that epic Grammy win, but now we have this. The article highlights females on TikTok giving advice on how to pick up men in Home Depot. Some of the advice was to go early, look confused, and even which aisles to stand on.
Not a great plan.
One excited contributor exclaimed she found 3 husbands there. I take her meaning as she found 3 guys that would make good husband material, but maybe she did get married to 3 different guys she found in a hardware store. Who knows? Either way, I digress because there is a larger point to be made. Exactly how shallow is the dating scene these days? And perhaps a better question would be is how shallow are people's standards these days? The guys aren't off the hook because the same article highlights that some guys do the same thing just in a different type of retail store, but I wasn't able to find videos with millions of views about that. Some females did express a lack of success with this type of love hunt. The irony is that feminism and all the strong, independent females have created an atmosphere where most guys won't bother asking if you need help for fear of the lesson on how women are just as capable as men and how he is being misogynistic for even asking. Heaven forbid you open the door for a female these days. You're more likely to be met with a scowl or silence than you are a thank you. But I must once again digress because now is not the time to discuss the scourge of feminism on our society because we have other matters before us at this moment. While some of us are going out of our way to find the one, it is interesting to point out that the marriage rates among U.S. citizens is at its lowest rate since 1867. Yes, even during the Civil War, more people were married. As it stands, there are less than 6 marriages per 1,000 people. Indeed, there are many factors contributing to this disturbing trend. But if dating app participation and a willingness to comb the aisles of hardware stores in hopes of catching someone's eye, most of those other factors are of no great relevance to this endeavor. But a few are, as we will highlight. Many women are looking for long term relationships and wanting to get married. So, what gives?
If you're single, I 10 out of 10 recommend running a roster or simply dating around. And I know you're gonna be like, oh my God, I don't get it. I don't know how. I'm not a whore. And the thing is like you don't have to be a whore to date around. I think it's important to date multiple people because you find out what exactly you're looking for. Dating is truly a skill and it's not something that comes easy to a lot of people. And like many skills, you need to practice.
In my opinion, there's several reasons why, as a single woman who is choosing to give your divine feminine energy to crusty men because you're dating, you have to have a roster, and here's why. If you're focusing all your energy on one man because you're a one man kind of woman and that's what you want, but you guys are just talking, he hasn't committed to you, you're gonna let get away with more than he should because you have nothing to compare it to and you're focusing your energy on him, so you're more likely to excuse behavior. But for me personally, if I have several men who I'm giving attention to who are giving me attention, when one of them starts to act up, it becomes a lot more obvious because I'm like, I've got multiple men vying for my attention, vying to take me out. So if you're not going to act right, I'm not going to talk to you.
Y'all want to know who I really love? Them women with them rosters. Y'all really know what y'all doing, sis. Yeah. Yeah.
And those rosters are filled with guys who know they are a part of a rotation and have no desire to attempt to be anything other than a gentleman caller who stays the night, to put it nicely. Women like this won't find the gold standard they're looking for. Just adult males who seek to satisfy their desires from time to time. It would be easy to hate on them, but you get what you attract. When marriage does happen, over half of them end in divorce. But here's a curious thing. Of all the divorces that take place, about 80% of them are initiated by the wife. And you would think the number one reason given would be infidelity on the part of the husband, but no. The number one reason is irreconcilable differences, followed by finances. Irreconcilable differences is a sort of a catch all reason, but almost every state has categories for spousal abuse and infidelity, so these terms were not used in the majority of these filings intentionally. So much for men being afraid of commitment. But hold on to that thought because there's another factor to discuss.
I have lost time and time again trying to be a dad to this little girl. I've been through hell for 12 years trying to be a dad to this baby. And I finally won custody of my baby. She ain't gonna be took from me no more. I don't have to worry about her family. Oh, I got my baby.
She violated the protective order on several occasions, coming to my house and telling me things like, I will teach your son Benjamin that you never loved him and that you never wanted anything to do with him. On one such occasion, she brought Benjamin to my house using him as a tool, demanding that I drop all the charges against her in return for allowing me access to my son Benjamin. This was the only time I have ever seen my son in person.
Many men are now asking themselves, why should they subject their lives to the possibility of long term destruction on the whims of a spouse who will take them to the cleaners with the support of a family court system that demonstrates open hatred against his biology? It's a great question. In many ways, men need to exercise due care, caution, and an abundance of wisdom when choosing a spouse. And these issues melt away almost completely. But let's be serious and sober here. There just isn't enough teaching of children, girls or boys, on what to look for in a person before you make them your spouse. Nonetheless, despite this lack of teaching, many guys are stepping back and taking a look at what is happening to their fellow brethren and have decided they want no part in the family court debacle. So, what to do? A great start would be to think about, internalize, and be willing to give what people want. For example, most men have a basic list that consists of attractiveness, kindness, and respectfulness towards him and others. Women tend to want a man that is strong, both mentally and physically, is respected by his peers, financially secure, or has the potential to be so in the immediate future. This list of attributes is not exhaustive, but is the basic foundational needs of a true man or woman. Do you possess these attributes? If not, are you willing to work on yourself to be what someone else needs? And if you're not willing to change to fit the average needs of your potential mate, you're likely to remain in endlessly rotating relationships that aren't fulfilling, leaving you depressed and considering becoming a quote unquote pet parent, which doesn't exist because people don't give birth to animals. But I digress once again, because now I have the perfect segue into the next point, which is being selfless.
Dare I?
Selflessness is almost dead in our society today, which explains a lot of the relationship woes people are experiencing. In our world today, everything is about self love, self care, self esteem, and selfies. With all this self stuff, you end up being self partnered. Selflessness is the ability to think about others instead of just your personal wants and desires. Not only that, but also having the willingness to do for others while postponing what you want is a great attractant of a worthy relationship. On a side note, so many people complain of a lack of happiness in their lives, but one sure way to increase happiness in a healthy way is to help someone else. In other words, selfless acts. This may sound strange to a lot of people, but there is a joy that comes over you when you bring a smile to someone's face or offer relief to a weary soul. And ladies, waiting until your 30s to look for a long-term relationship and have children is so close to too late that it creates all kinds of anxiety. Born from that anxiety is the willful ignoring of red flags that lead to broken relationships and broken homes. This isn't finger pointing, it's just reality. One of the most unfortunate aspects of the current mentality of a lot of young ladies is that they have all the time in the world, and this is simply not true. This thing called a biological clock is real, and the later in your 30s you get, the more complications occur. Miscarriages, genetic abnormalities, and the need for in vitro fertilization increase exponentially due to geriatric pregnancies. I'm sure you know all of this, But why do so many keep getting caught in this trap of misery? It's because most begin to panic and step up their efforts while looking for love in all the wrong places and end up with what they discover: boys who they confuse for men who end up being way less than what they wanted. The concept of family is being battered and assaulted on every hand. From looking for love in all the wrong places, geriatric pregnancies, high levels of selfishness, boys refusing to become men, and girls who refuse to be anything other than self indulged has all teamed up to make life way more difficult than it needs to be. But all is not lost. All it takes is a decision to be better, be selfless, develop the morals and standards that have been beaten into the earth to support selfish behavior. At some point, we have to look in the mirror and make the reflection you see be one of selflessness and compassion. After all, if what you put out is what you get back, the most selfish thing you can do is to be of service to others. Family on Trial. Dear family, your support would be much appreciated. So if you would think it not robbery, could you head over to PayPal or Venmo and show us some love? Just type @Family on Trial and you'll come right to our account. Send us a blessing if you would. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.